Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Hindsight, Nathan Heinz. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to State of the Steelers / the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. I got my buddy Nathan Heinz here again as a guest speaker on the show. He is the one-half host. Whoa, all over the place. He is the co-host and the one half of the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, which is with myself. That comes out typically on YouTube, both on my channel, State of the Steelers, and on Nathan's. His channel is called In Hindsight. Nathan, welcome back. How you doing, my man?
Feels like it's been a really long time since we've been back on the platform doing this, so it's good to kind of make a return together here and kind of voice our opinions, discuss whatever is going to be discussed together here. Not doing too bad, man. Just cold every day. It just doesn't want to stop snowing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's finally getting kind of cold down here in Texas as well. We're supposed to be expecting some snow like Tuesday or Wednesday. So
yeah.
It's a couple weeks back we were still in the 90s, not to be honest with you. So it's quite a bit of a change really fast and rapid.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers season ending was pretty fast and rapid. Losing 5 of their last games, including one in the playoffs, against the Baltimore Ravens of all teams in Baltimore in the first round, one and done. I mean, my God, talk about a complete and total collapse. The Steelers have come out, they've done a couple of different press conferences. Tomlin has, for instance, and they've said some things, said some other things. I don't know, man. With this team, I've learned to trust what they, watch what they do, not what they say. I'm not sure if you caught the most recent press conference, but in that press conference, Mike Tomlin was asked about Justin Fields potentially being in the pole position next year. And he said, certainly, like he does have the possibility of doing that. It's not on the team yet. Do you think that Justin Fields is going to be the guy starting next year?
I actually did kind of want to discuss with you later in this show a certain kind of topic in a way, and this kind of relates into that. So to answer your question, it's do I think is he going to be a starter?
Yeah. Do you think going into the 2025 season, 2026 season, that it'll be Justin Fields in the pole position, or do you think maybe it's going to be Russ? Do you think Russ is going to come back? Or maybe it's not even any of those guys. Where do you see the future of the quarterback room? Because this could be very well the second time in 2 years that the quarterback room gets completely redone.
It's definitely, it's definitely possible. I'm going to say as of right now, I think Fields is going to be the person that has the lead to win that spot for next season. I think it makes the most sense, which is something, again, I kind of want to go into as the show goes on. But to start off, since we're starting off with this question, I think it makes the most sense for him to be the starter, or at least be the person that is getting the opportunity to win the job. And reason why is you have to be realistic here. The quarterback options going into next season are not there. They're not there. There's nothing interesting on the free agent market. The Steelers are not in a position to draft a quarterback in the first round when it's most likely only 2 are going to go. It's not to say they can't take one in the middle of the draft, just if there's somebody they like. But when you look all things considered, Justin Fields is 25. He has been here already for a season. He has things that he did that were positive. He has things that he did that were negative, but he sat for more than half the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I said going into the season, the best thing for him was probably to sit for a little bit, and he did. So the way it's going to be, as I see it, unless there's some drastic thing that happens, which would be some crazy trade that I don't see happening, the way I see it, it's going to be sink or swim next season. That's going to be it. And the best way to go about it, as we see where the situation with this team is, they've been going through quarterback after quarterback the last 4 years, et cetera, et cetera. So your best option is to either let Justin Fields swim, and you can see you have somebody and that he actually grew in more positive ways sitting, or number two, he doesn't turn out to be your future, and you're probably going to be sitting in the best position you've had in the draft for quite a while when the draft's out here as well.
Yeah,
that is a plausible,
go
reasonable thing for their quarterback situation. And I think a lot of people are on board with that. And a lot of people have to feel okay if Justin Fields doesn't work out of possibly having a losing season and actually drafting a quarterback. Because next year's draft looks a lot more better than what you're getting this season.
No, I don't disagree with you. There is Colin. Was it Colin Coward? He's come out with trade Pickens, trade Watt, get Shadir Sanders.
Yeah, 2 first-round picks. He said that last year with Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
He said the same thing last year, and he's probably going to say the same thing next year with Arch Manning.
But with Archie Manning, you may want to consider something to get up there and get that guy. I think he's going to be pretty good. I mean, he's got the wheels, he's got the arm, he's got the pedigree, so to speak. And I know he hasn't played a lot, but when he's gone in games, the guy's shown up.
He's going to have a good season next year at Texas. He'll be a top pick. But that's the thing. If Justin Fields doesn't turn out, okay, not saying that you're going to win 3 games, but you'll probably be sitting in a position where you've probably have needed to be at for quite some time now, or that's been overdue to be.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a top 5 pick, but maybe you're somewhere there a little outside the top 10, you can always trade up.
That is true.
Have some nuts, make a move, trade up. You can look back at all the quarterbacks that have gone the last handful of years, and teams have traded up 10 spots, 15 spots to draft guys.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs they moved up quite a bit to get Patrick Mahomes. But so when it comes to the quarterback room, then you're thinking that Justin Fields is probably the most likely guy to remain on the roster.
From a realistic standpoint, yes. Yeah.
So you don't think there's any chance that Russell Wilson comes back?
There's always a chance, but I don't think he should. No. And I think the Steelers should be realistic with that and say, listen, we tried it out. It did really good to start, but the wheels came off and it was not good. And you lost the last 5. He's going to be 37. And this is one of my main things with Russell Wilson. He's always been one of my favorite players. Always has. I loved watching him in Seattle. Very fun to watch. He's a great guy. He really is. But he's going to be 37 next season. And the fact that he only started 11 games and the last half of those 11 games, he already started to fall off. Imagine him in 17 games. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would have been ugly. Probably would have gotten benched if he had a full 17 game opportunity. So you've been there, you've done that, you've done the things with the you did the Russell Wilson experiment. And if it went better, he'd be here next year and he'd get a contract extension, but they need to go younger. They need to go offensive heavy this offseason and build around Justin Fields. And if he does well and you think that, hey, you know what, we actually might have somebody here and it benefited him well to sit for half the season, great. If not, you're going to get an opportunity in 2026 when the draft is out here to take a quarterback. And that quarterback, why I say that you need to spend some money in offense this offseason is because then that rookie quarterback, if you take one in 26, he will have guys already here. He will be set up in a way offensively with a offensive line that was shaky this year, but has promise. And you go out and you go get some guys, go get some skill players, go spend money there instead of your defense and set your rookie quarterback up in 26 for success if Justin Fields does not work out next year.
See, my only thing about with it potentially being Justin Fields is this was the same song and dance that they were saying about Mason Rudolph last year. And they didn't give him a contract. And so, we had Rooney coming out there. We had Mike Tomlin coming out, talking gloriously about how Mason Rudolph performed at the end of the season, in which, I honestly thought he did pretty well at the end of the season. I thought if he actually played more games that year, he probably put the Steelers in a little bit of a better position that they were in last season going into the playoffs. But, we'll digress on the past. Because of those things, I strongly, I hear what he's saying, but I'm hesitant to believe that it's actually going to come true. Now, do I think that they're going to, would it be smart to completely overhaul the entire quarterback room again? Probably not. I mean, that just kind of sounds like you're trying to throw mud on the wall and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And that does kind of seem what it's been. But,
Yeah.
If they were to do that, you're right. There's not very many options. I mean, Sam Darnold, he's probably him, Geno Smith, if he ends up getting, goes out into free agency. And those aren't names that I think would take the Steelers where they want to go. I don't even think they would get to where, I think that it would be difficult for them to even get to where they were this year with those type of quarterbacks. Not saying that they're worse than Russell Wilson or worse than Justin Fields. I think that those quarterbacks, I think there's an aspect of getting figured out, right? So Justin Fields, he played well, and then towards the end of his starting games, week 5, week 4, week 6, he started to come down a little bit. He started to tear off. And then Russell Wilson comes in, and it's a different style. He's doing different things. Tendencies are being broken. And so that is affecting the game, right? Whereas as far as the defense is trying to figure out what they're going to do, it just took them a little bit longer for them to, because of the switch. But once they figured out Russ, I mean, look at that, 5 games in a row loss. And there were some games in between there that were a little bit concerning. I know that the Bengals game at home, that was one of the more impressive times. But, you also find out that Arthur Smith apparently and Russell Wilson didn't really get along. They had some difference in opinions when it comes to philosophy.
Yeah, no, absolutely they did. And Arthur Smith didn't want Justin Fields bench, dude.
No, he didn't.
And yeah, good.
So that's where I'm going. Like, so if doesn't it seem like Tomlin is siding with the player over the coach, though, in that situation at the end of that year, especially?
Yeah, I'm just tired of seeing 2+ quarterbacks play every season. They need to pick whatever quarterback they're going with and freaking stick with it, dude. There's no need to be getting if you're going to have Justin Fields in here, I don't want to see a quarterback competition again. I don't. If you're going to bring Justin Fields back and give him at least probably a 2-year contract, that's probably what you're going to do. And he needs to be named the starter. He needs to be named the starter. He's the guy we're rolling with for 2025, and you're going to build around him, and you're going to make him confident, and you're going to build around him. And you know what? You see what happens. It's the way it goes. You're not bringing in Aaron. You're not bringing in Sam. You're not bringing in Geno. Just stay young. Stay young. The guy was their best offensive weapon this year, and he got benched, and I stand by that. Now, when Russell Wilson was put in there, obviously, for a few games, 3-4 games, it gave a different dynamic. We were actually seeing the ball push down the field. We were seeing over 25 points scored a game. That was great. But when his deep ball was taken away, there was nothing there. He couldn't move out of the pocket. Always taking poor sacks, not much intermediate passing. We all know what Justin Fields' issues have been as well, but at least Fields is young. At least he sat. He's somebody that's already been a part of this team for a year. And at the end of the day, that needs to be your best option to work around him. The guy is still your best threat offensively with his legs. Hopefully you can see a little bit more consistency on the passing end for him heading into this season. But if he's not your answer, then you're set up. Honestly, I don't see any other reasonable option out there. I don't. I really don't. Unless the only thing is if you're the Steelers and they're not going to do this, but unless you just want to go win 2 games and you just go bring in Brian Hoyer or somebody, which I'm joking, not Brian Hoyer, but you get my point. You just go bring in some irrelevant quarterback. You might as well start Kyle Allen. So your best option is to Daniel, you're muted, by the way, brother. But your best option is just to roll what you got with Justin Fields. He's been there. He knows the coaching. He even said himself he's tired of switching coaches. He's been through three different coaches out of 4 years. It's horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a crappy spot to be in. But that's the reality of it. The Steelers neglected drafting a quarterback to sit behind Ben for a year or two. They did not do that.
Right,
And
but
I still stand by that. That's something that should have been done.
even if Justin Fields comes back, if you're Arthur Smith and you're saying, "Hey, I want Justin Fields," the Russ experiment comes out, he wins X amount of games, he ends up going, on this 4-game losing streak towards the end. In my opinion, he got figured out. He don't have a middle game whatsoever. It's either a home run ball or what did John Harbaugh say it was with Russell Wilson? It's either a home run or a layup. There's no in between. A 3-pointer or a layup. There you go. There's nothing in between. And
go watch the Cincinnati game.
Yeah, defenses were starting to cue in on that.
Check down city to Patterson to Harris to Warren.
Right.
Little concepts made up for Freiermuth there. That's what it was. And then hit some deep shots. But that's it. That's honestly it. And that's him at his point in his career. Now, Wilson was never really somebody that was an over the middle of the field type quarterback. But when he's 37 years old and his legs aren't really there much anymore, it hurts a lot. It really does. Because he was very good at making plays outside the pocket when he was in Seattle. But those days are long gone.
That, and I feel like he holds on to the ball a little too much.
He does.
Like there's just times where he's just holding it on, and I'm
just throw it away at that point, dude. Just freaking throw it away. Seriously, just throw it away. And a lot of times too, you can watch him, and they pointed this out with what game was it? It might have been the Bengals game at the end of the year. I can't remember, but it was pointed out. Maybe it was the Ravens game. I don't know, but the commentary team did a really good job pointing out. If you watch Russell Wilson in the pocket, and once that first read wasn't there, he was so uncomfortable, dude. He was so uncomfortable. His footwork was all over the place. He wasn't set at all in terms of being able to who's ever he thrown the ball to. I mean, whatever reads he has after his first one. So who's ever he thrown the ball to, but wasn't set, was all kind of just jumbled around in terms of just basic foot mechanics for him. And it didn't look good on replay. It didn't look good when you went back and rewatched it. He just looked really shaken. He looked really shook at the end of the season, the last few games, when there's pressure there, when his first guy's not there, not really knowing what to do. Then he holds onto the ball too long and tries to make a play, and he just looks stupid. And then it just puts you in a worse spot. There's a lot of times as well where you can watch back some of those situations where Russell Wilson drops back, first guy's not there, pressure's there, rolls out, gets sacked, or whatever the case is. And you can say, you know what, if that was Justin Fields, probably would have picked up a first down because his legs. And that's something that is just the reality of the NFL nowadays. You have to be able to run. You have to be able to move. And Wilson took a lot of bad sacks because of lack of mobility, poor in the pocket as the season went on, got shook a lot. With Justin Fields takes bad sacks too. 100% he does. Fields, there's times we know that he's had fumble problems, 100%. But the bright side with it is that there's a lot of times where Fields is going to get you out of those jams, and he did that the first handful of games of the season, and you saw that. So you have to take the good and the bad, and I'm going to take more of the positivity that weighs with Justin Fields than really what's left there with Russell Wilson. And outside of Russell Wilson's moon ball, there's not much there. That's it.
I don't disagree with you, my man. I think that when it comes to Russell Wilson, and I think he's been figured out, and he doesn't have the ability to change his game so that way he can adjust it. Which I know a lot of people are saying, no to Aaron Rodgers or things of that nature. And I really wouldn't want Aaron Rodgers on the team either.
No.
But like somebody that can see over the field and can make the throws.
Well, I don't think Aaron wasn't horrific. The last half of the season, Aaron was actually pretty reasonable. But again, with Aaron, I don't want a 42-year-old quarterback, dude. I'm over the age. You have to get younger. Aaron is not a good leader. There's always issues with him as well. And just over it. Just over it. At this point with where the Steelers are, just get younger, dude. Just get younger. Stop with the Band-Aids. And with Aaron, sure, he can see the field better. Sure, he has more, he hits the middle of the field. All those type of things. But with what we saw this year and the toxicity that was with the Jets, I don't want that over here. We have enough of that.
Right. No, I wouldn't either. But what I'm saying is getting somebody that can hit and make the throws. That's definitely would be something I think that would be very beneficial for this team. I think that's why Mason Rudolph was as successful as he was towards the end of the season last year. And he's not a very mobile quarterback. I just think that he was able to see over the field. He's 6'5". He got over his happy feet. And I think that's what helped him in his career, towards the end of the career, his career here in Pittsburgh.
Wilson's not a big guy either, man. I mean, how many times you see passes batted down?
I get it, but what would you do if Steelers end up with Danny Jones?
God, I mean, I'm just gonna claw my eyes out. just claw my eyes out. Probably just hope for at that point, like you're like, dude, just get 3 wins at that point.
See, this is where I agree with a lot of what you're saying as far as there's just nobody out there to get.
That's it. It's just the reality, dude. It's just the reality. And one thing, what I want to talk about real quick, since we're going to go about another 20 minutes here. What I was thinking about earlier today, talk on the show, was the Steelers. This isn't what you would do. This isn't what I would do. I know a lot of people have different takes on what they would do or like to see the Steelers do at this point. Because what they've been doing, it's not working. It's not clicking. Nothing's getting accomplished. Nothing. Honestly, dude, this season was a waste of everybody's time. It was a waste of everybody's time. They didn't suck enough to get a high pick. And they didn't. And then the other side, they didn't do anything in the playoffs. It was a waste of everybody's time. So, with that being said, the Steelers are running it back with Mike Tomlin. And we're just going to see maybe some coaching changes, whether that's the offensive line coach, different coordinators, who knows? We have to wait and see how that plays out. But to me, the Steelers are approaching again next season with, hey, we have to figure out what we're going to do at quarterback, but they're just going to add to the team. They're just going to add to the team, add to what they have. They're going to just try to make their team better and hope to make a little noise in the playoffs. And again, I feel like that's been their approach the last handful of years. So if you're the Steelers, from a realistic standpoint, Daniel, if you're the Steelers, realistically, what would you go about? What are some key things this offseason with how this season finished? Now, again, I'm not asking you what you would do as yourself. You have to have the mindset of the Steelers here, of Art Rooney, of Khan, of Mike Tomlin, the way that they do business. What is a realistic approach that you would like to see the Steelers do, given how they're probably going to operate this offseason in terms of just getting to where they need to be? Whether if that's the case of getting a higher pick and getting quarterback, whether that's the case of actually making some noise in the playoffs. Like, do you just have a spending spree in free agency? Do you move some guys that are starters on the team and try to get some capital and replace some of them through the draft and through free agency? Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And from a realistic standpoint, that's what I mean. Like, I want you to approach this question. What do you do with the same mindset that the Steelers have, with how you know they're going to approach this offseason? Because they're not tearing it down.
No, I don't think they'll tear it down. Not at all. And I'll go into this. I'll give you the 3 or some key things that I think the Steelers will do, and also what they can do. I'm not sure if they will do them, but I think that they are realistic. That'll help out the team. But we're going to take a quick break real quick, and then I'll answer that question from you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. And we're back. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us, and going through that break with us. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, stillcurrentnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. And while you're there, you can check out all of our other podcasts. Some of them come out on YouTube, some of them don't. Some of them are audio only. So make sure you go check that out. The next time I'll be on will be on Monday with Shannon White on a show called The Hangover. And so with that being said, let's get into these key things or key approaches that the Steelers may make that could benefit the team moving forward. Well, last time I was on The Hangover, I was talking with Shannon White, and I told him that the most likely thing that I think is going to happen, Tomlin mentioned changes. There's going to be a lot of changes. And I said that the big change was going to be that they were going to fire the head of strength and conditioning and his staff. And when you listen to, so that was on Monday. I think it was Tuesday. He had his press conference, and I was listening in, and he said that, there were going to be a lot of changes. And first thing they're going to look at is to why there was so many injuries at the end of the year. And so I was like, all right, so definitely they're going to fire the strength and conditioning coach, which I guess they got a point in doing. So there was a lot of soft tissue issues, but, that's not really the change we're looking for, but I guess having healthier players down the stretch would make the team better. But realistically, I don't really see them going off of, unless Arthur Smith gets another coaching gig somewhere else. I don't see them moving off from him. They're not going to fire him. They're not going to release him and pick up anybody else. I think that there could be the possibility that Terrell Austin ends up losing his job, and he'd be like a scapegoat because
see you later.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, but it's Mike Tomlin's defense. So even if you get rid of Terrell Austin,
I want everybody gone, Daniel. That's me. I want everybody gone. I want house clean. So, but in terms of whoever they get fired, see you later. Bye.
Right. I know Grady Brown's probably on his way out. He's the defensive secondary coach. I'd even maybe consider the inside linebacker coach to be a potential person that might lose their job. Patrick Queen didn't pan out, not the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers wanted him to. And so I can see how maybe perhaps the Steelers look at their inside linebackers coach and say, hey, this didn't work out. You have Peyton Wilson who started off really, really well, but then kind of disappeared as the season went along. And that could be also part of the rookie wall. Defensively, I think that when it comes to the players themselves, there's a couple players that the Steelers there might be some moves made on these two players based on financials. And those two players are Larry Ogunjobi. If the Pittsburgh Steelers cut him, they're saving themselves a little bit over $7 million. And the next one, I think, is going to be Minkah Fitzpatrick. They're going to really have to think hard about making a business decision there. It's making around $18 million next season, somewhere around that. And he really hasn't produced with any amount of splash in the last few years. So, as much as I don't want them to move off of Minkah, I have a Minkah jersey. I have one autographed by him as well. It just hasn't been the greatest showcase from Minkah's play in the last couple of years. And
his body language is horrific.
Yeah. But, maybe a change in scenery for him might be well as well. And, I just think that with what Deshaun Elliott was able to do, I mean, if I was, given a choice, who do I want moving forward, Deshaun Elliott or Minkah Fitzpatrick, I would probably stick with Deshaun Elliott based on what he was able to do. Not taking anything away from Minkah. I think he's an excellent and absolute beast of a safety. It's not been there with the splash plays. Mm-hmm. And there have been some times where it appears that he's the one that's getting burnt in certain situations. Now, is it because he's taking a step back, or is it because he's trying to help out with other players that are new to the defense and trying to make sure that they're not getting killed at the same time? Either one may be possible, but I do think that you have to look at the amount of money that he's making and the production that's out there on the field and think to yourself, is it Is it worth it? You're going to have to you're going to have to pay some people. If you get rid of George Pickens, you're going to have to pick up a receiver in the draft, but that's only half the problem. The entire problem this entire year was finding wide receiver number 2. I know there's a lot of speculation out there that Higgins may be a huge target the Pittsburgh Steelers go after, but he's going to command some money. And then, if you stick with Justin Fields, you have to pay him too. Reports are there, 3 years, 90 million. 3 years, maybe 60 million.
For who?
For Justin Fields, 20 million a year. I mean, you're going to have to allocate some money to the offensive side now. And, you're also going to have to, re-sign TJ Watt. I think you want to keep TJ. He's the heart of the defense. From what I understand, even though he kind of like tailored off a little bit as well towards the end of the season, from what I understand, he was significantly hurt. I think that ankle injury that he had sustained against the Eagles maybe during that short time, and then not really getting time to actually rest it and get off of it. It was hindering him. And so I think those are the moves that we're going to see. I think that offensively moves that we can see. I would like to see Pat Meyer gone. I'll be honest with you. The Steelers have had some offensive linemen that have gone other places and look, really good, if not formidable, like in, Dotson or even Green, for instance, when he's been able to play while he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Sayamalu has regressed, in my opinion. Broderick Jones hasn't lived up to what we were hoping he would be. And Dan Moore is somebody that they've held on to for far too long on the left side. And, I would assume and I would want that Pat Meyer be one of the guys that is gone. But honestly, I don't know, man. I don't think they'll get rid of anybody, to be honest with you, on the offensive side. I think Najee's not going to be back. And I think that I think you got to get I think you have to separate. The Steelers have to really consider separating themselves from George Pickens. I like the ability, I like the talent, I like the potential.
Mm-hmm.
But, as reports came out, he showed up an hour and 20 minutes late for the Christmas game against the Chiefs. And that's not the first time he's done that, apparently. I think his rookie year, I think I was listening to the was it Jersey Jerry and Steel Here podcast with Kevin. And they were talking about a time, I think it was his rookie year, maybe perhaps against the Jets, where he walked in like 25 minutes to kick off or something with a bag of Twizzlers and said that his alarm didn't go off.
Nice.
But and I've heard some other podcasts where they were talking about some things that have happened in the past as well. And this is when I brought up, Tomlin taking, Russell Wilson's position over Arthur Smith, over his coach. It doesn't seem like that's the first time. There was a time apparently then where he basically let Marquise Pouncey run the offensive line, which isn't a bad idea. It's not a bad thing, right? He had his guys in order, but I think it was Arthur, was it Plume or something like that? Crumb. They basically had him sitting in the back. They were paying him. They wouldn't fire him. They wouldn't let him do anything. He was just sitting in the back of the room. And I don't know. I mean, they do say that Tomlin is a player's coach. Could he be too much of a player's coach?
Maybe. I mean, what do you think about the response that he had for the reporter bringing up the Pickens crap?
Oh man, I mean,
Daniel. I mean, it was every other word.
Yeah.
Answer the question, Michael.
Yeah.
Jeez, dude. I mean, listen. I saw somebody talk about I don't remember who it was. I think it was Robert Golden. If you guys remember him when he used to play here.
Yeah.
I saw him on Twitter the other day talk about how much of a father figure Tomlin is and like these young guys who have all this money now. And listen, all that's great. But at the end of the day, you're running a football team too. And it's great to connect with your guys and where they can lean on you and stuff like that. And I do think that stuff is valuable and not just being a straight on X's and O's. Like you can still have a sense of reality with your team and with what's going on in whose ever life. But you need to be more than just that. And that was Robert Golden's claim why they shouldn't fire Mike Tomlin, because this guy is such a leader of men. Okay, that's great. You're a great cheerleader, you're a great leader, a guy that does a great job in terms of getting his players excited or hyped up or being there for them in whatever situations. But what we're seeing is awful. And it's a lot more than a therapy session here. You're trying to win football games. It's a business at the end of the day. You're not competing with these higher teams in the AFC. So that's all great and dandy, as Robert Golden mentioned. And I do think that in sports, those are important things that coaches should have, different characteristics like that. But like what you said, Daniel, how much of that is really being overtaken by things that are more business, football, team-oriented, team-ran based in this locker room? Discipline, structure. Because from what we're seeing, just look at George Pickens. I mean, at least Antonio Brown was coming out every week. George Pickens doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
George Pickens is shedding tears on the sideline when he's not getting the football. I know. Then listen, I know Antonio Brown was a headache, but the guy came to play every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Every single week. George Pickens, on the other hand, this guy's not a top 10 wide receiver. It's great. There's great talent. There's exciting plays. There's potential. But at the end of the day, how much of it, like what Daniel said, is not being, I don't want to necessarily say controlled enough, but how much lack of structure and discipline is going on behind the scenes when you're being more player friendly or letting certain things go or not wanting to touch toes or not wanting to cross certain lines because you want to keep guys happy.
Do you think that might be one of the reasons why they haven't got or hired a prominent offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator? You think it could be just mainly because of the micromanagement that Mike Tomlin does? I mean, when you look at the offensive side, you have, Arthur Smith, Matt Canada, Randy Fichtner, Big Ben's last couple of years there. All these guys, offense looked exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Exactly the same. And, there's only one common denominator there, and that's Coach Tomlin. And if we're hearing that he's siding with Russ over his offensive coordinator in certain situations or whatever the case may have been, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why the team offensively and even defensively towards the end is just it's become too much. Lack of adjustments, a lack of other things. Maybe it's because Tomlin's spreading himself out a little too thin and trying to control everything. I think he needs to just loosen up the reins a little bit. Trust the people that he hires.
Yeah. Stay in your lane.
And if they're not, I mean, I understand he's going to be making the big decisions. He's going to talk about game plans and have his huge, input into those type of things. But I mean, the way the offense has looked and the way that the middle of the field has just been not a thing. I mean, with everybody going back to Ben's year, I mean, you had Ben, you had Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, now Russ and Justin Fields. And if you go and look at all of their next gen, stats of where on the field that they're completing, making incomplete passes, interceptions, there's like a void in the middle of the field for all of them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people were thinking maybe it's because the Steelers offense is going up against some of the safeties that the Pittsburgh Steelers defense has, and it's making, Tomlin want to avoid the middle of the field, and it's possible, but it's not winning football.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not. It's not. It's really, as how the season ended and even up today, I'm just so deflated, dude. Like, not where I haven't gotten over it. I'm just deflated where I just don't have energy. I don't have energy for them with how, I mean, dude, being 10-3, leading your division by 2 games, and you just have a insane collapse the way that you do is, I don't know how anybody isn't deflated. You're 10-3, right? Fans are energized, fans are excited, feels like a different team, a team they haven't had in a long time, putting up points, drop 5 in a row, bounced first round again. What got accomplished? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and it was so bad. So this State of the Steelers episode goes out on Saturdays, and during the time where they had a game on Wednesday, a game on Saturday, my episode didn't air. And so we went from 10-3, where I had my last episode. And I was talking about, like, man, we're going to win the North. We're going to do this. The very next episode I did, which was about 3 games later, we went from first place with our eyes on the prize, perhaps maybe even getting a first round bye if everything fell in order, to being in 6th place from one show to the next. It was so quick, and it was horrible, man. And, when I went and talked, I was like, wow, how things have changed. And, just to kind of touch back a little bit on the quarterback position, it seemed like Russell Wilson was going to be the guy going forward. I highly doubt that's going to be the case this time around.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of holes. I think the first thing that we all need to acknowledge is that there's so many players, or there's so many positions that are needed. I highly doubt that they're all going to be fulfilled in 1 year.
No, it's not going to happen. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. But I don't think any team's ever a complete team. You look at injuries, whatever teams do in the offseason, certain guys don't work out. I don't like the complete team term. I don't.
Right,
Every
but there's some
offseason,
massive holes. There's a difference.
there are.
between
Yeah, there are. Like, but that's what I mean, is that regardless of however many, because looking at going into last season, everybody was really excited about some of the moves they made in free agency and the overhaul of the quarterback room and their draft. And not that they were considered a perfect team. Obviously, the main thing was finding another wide receiver there. But outside of that, everybody was pretty satisfied with where they sat. Now we look into this offseason, and it looks like a complete mess. But every team in the league, come the offseason, regardless of if they have a successful season or not, always has holes. So now, like what Daniel said, is that with the way that this season ended and with what the Steelers are looking at heading in the offseason, not all these holes are going to be filled. They're not. You have too many things to compliment. Where I can't even speak. You have too many things to consider, and you have too many positions to maybe make certain decisions about, whether it be cuts, whether it be trades. It's not all going to be. But again, with the Steelers' mindset, they're not going to tear down. They're going to try and fill everything they possibly can to be a competitive football team and win in the playoffs this season. That's exactly what they're going to try and do. And to me, certain things just become insane because the Steelers have been running that approach for how many years now, and it's not working. It's not working. Nothing's getting accomplished. Nothing's getting rebuilt. We can look back at certain drafts that they've had and certain misses there, poor picks, different things like that. And what they're trying to accomplish, just it's not getting accomplished. It hasn't gotten accomplished in 6 years. So, or longer than that, 7 years, 8 years. So it's definitely not going to be filled. Not all these positions are going to be filled. There's still going to be certain areas of weakness heading into their season. So should we just expect another typical thing? Should we expect, hey, this might actually be a season of struggle and it might actually start to bring actual change? Or do they miraculously just find a way to be better than where they've been the last 7 years? I don't know. I don't have all the answers. And I don't think we're going to have some of these answers until free agency opens up and what the team looks like and everything. There's just so many different talking points with this team. And I don't have it all, dude. I really don't, because what we see every year, the team has talent. Every year the team has talent. There's no denying that. But what they're doing every year in terms of, we look at their coaching, we look at the quarterbacks, just continual Band-Aids getting picked on or picked off and put back on. We look at, you name it, any type of problems throughout the season, distractions going on, losing to teams they should beat, blah, 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 blah. It's just, no matter what they do, it seems like with their roster, they have the same season over and over and over. Something has to give, dude, because the Steelers can go out and have a spending spree this offseason. Okay, that can be exciting. But reality, should anybody expect any different until they actually show it? Not me. Not me. My expectations that they could have a fantastic offseason, and my expectations are probably going to be the same going into the year. Probably win games, maybe try to vie for playoffs, maybe a division, and fall short. And that's not going to change until they give you a consistency of being able to do more than what they've done.
Right. And I agree with you about the whole completed teams, and most teams that make it to the Super Bowl aren't completed. They have injuries, those type of things, and those things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. It's just like with the Steelers, I think they're just handcuffed with the depth aspect. I mean, and a lot of that comes with how many years at the end of Kevin Colbert's regime as the general manager did he pick horrible, maybe not horrible players, but he had some bad picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some wrong places. Some of the players, the first rounders, didn't pan out. I think it was TJ Watt is the last first rounder out of Kevin Colbert's tenure. They get a second contract or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think all the other guys that were first rounders, like Terrell Edmonds, you had Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris. I don't think they're going to get second round. Well, obviously Kenny Pickett is not getting a second contract. I don't think Najee's going to get one. I think Pat Freiermuth is another one that may have gotten that did get a second contract.
Mm.
So what you're missing here is that you have a lot of like upfront talent, right? But there's no depth behind it. And if anybody goes down, it's such a huge blow to the defense, to the offense, where it's like, all right, we have an okay team, right? It's a great team when everybody's healthy and everybody's feeling great. And as soon as somebody starts having a nagging injury and you have to start, making adjustments to overcorrect those things, it just seems like it becomes too complicated for the team and they can't handle it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that has to do with the depth of the position groups, starting with the wide receiver position. There really wasn't anything outside of George Pickens. And even if there was, like in something with Mike Williams or Roman Wilson, we never got an opportunity to see that. It's not necessarily that they were the worst players on the field or anything like that. More so, I think Tomlin didn't trust them. And, I just don't like the way it's going. And this year, I hope we're going to see a lot of change, but I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think we're going to see much.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of the same thing.
Man. I feel like that we heard last year we're going to get a lot of change. I don't think we got much last year.
No. I mean, we got a whole new quarterback room and an offensive coordinator.
You got that.
Everything was looking in play for that to be the case, and it looks a lot of the same. Like, even when Justin Fields was there and he was running around and doing his thing, I think we saw more touchdowns out of the quarterback room, but it was still sub average. You know what I mean? Just kind of tells you how poor it was before.
Yeah. Like the quarterback room was better than what they've had in recent years, but it's not enough. It's not good enough. The production's not good enough. The way the offensive ran's not good enough. And again, you look at it like what you said is that even though, sure, there was maybe some more production in terms of passing touchdowns or having certain stints where you're scoring over 25 points, different things like that, but the offense still looks the same. It's stale. It's rinse repeat. It's run on first down. It's run on second down. It's pass on third down. We're getting Cordarrelle Patterson in there for absolutely no reason. We're running Najee Harris in a way where we should be running Jalen Warren and vice versa. We keep running the pitch toss for absolutely no reason. Like, it's just nauseating. It's nauseating to watch, dude.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you on any of those comments there. It's been frustrating. It's been a frustrating year, especially offensively, defensively towards the end of the year. But I think a lot of that was nutrition as well. On the defensive side, especially when you're forced to play so much when the offense is going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Time of possession was
But
wow.
again, that's been a story the last 4 years.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
The 3 and outs, the time of possession, the defense on the field, right? That's been a story the last 4 years. And again, with 2025, that's why fans have to be realistic as well. They're not themselves, and the market itself, it's not quarterback friendly. It's not. You're not going to find an answer unless, like I said, Justin Fields ends up showing more than what he originally did, from learning and observing and sitting. And if there was any way of development, maybe we'll find out if he comes back. But other than that, you got to be realistic about it.
Yeah.
You can't just sit and say, oh, Steelers got to find a quarterback. Got to draft a quarterback. You got to be realistic about it, dude. They're not drafting a quarterback this year.
No, you're probably right. And, I think Tomlin made a statement at one point throughout this year. It was on a podcast where it may have been the one with Ryan Clark and the Pivot podcast, where he made the statement that when it comes to the quarterback challenges or the question when it came between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, that it was a different type of quarterback competition this year, where he talked about in the past, he had to choose between two options that were unattractive. And this time it wasn't so much the same. He has two options that are both more than capable. At first I thought that was just kind of a little bit of shade at Kenny Pickett, Mr. Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph by calling them unattractive options at the quarterback position. But that also brings the, how well did Justin Fields show. And, when he was playing with the Steelers, it was early on in the season. He only had so much time with the Steelers, maybe a whole year, sitting and watching and learning and practicing against the first team defense could have helped him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
no, it definitely could have, man. I think with where things are at right now, where we're at right now, we just have to really kind of see how things play in going into March with the new league year starting, when that starts, what moves the Steelers make between that time. It's deflating. It's disappointing. I know people are still pissed off, rightfully so. I know people are fed up, rightfully so. I think most of the fan base is, just because I think just most people are fed up just because it's tiresome. It's tiresome just seeing nothing getting accomplished, nothing trending in the right direction, just really kind of being stuck in the middle there. You're not bad, but you're not good enough. And I think people would rather just see one or the other, honestly, at this point.
I don't disagree with you. Well, at this time, we're going to be talking about and taking your questions, guys. Put them in the live chat. I know I've seen a few things earlier, and we'll be bringing those up. I want to bring up Steeler Lead first because he dropped in a $4.99 super chat. He said they need to do a better job of scouting receivers with quality talent, but even better character. I agree. Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Steeler Lead. Appreciate your donation to the channel. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I definitely do agree that they would definitely need to do a better job of scouting the wide receivers at this point, as far as the character aspect goes. I think that, again, with the Pivot podcast and stuff like that, Mike Tomlin mentioned, not being afraid of coaching players and things of that nature, not running away from coaching, running to it. And, there's just sometimes when you have so many of these players that need that much amount of work, especially on their character and stuff like that. Maybe you need to run away from some of those players too.
Yeah. Yeah. Believe me, I'm 100% on board. Again, that's another aspect that's just, it's tiring. It's very tiring to watch.
100%. Steelers fan comes in with a gifted State of the Steelers membership. Thank you so much, Steelers fan. our members, when I do other podcasts and stuff that are audio only, they usually come out a little bit early for the members. And so if you want to check out some of the content early and just support the channel, consider joining the membership. Let's see. Jared Devil, hope you're safe out there. He's out there in the California area.
Yeah,
He's
I was going to ask just how you were doing out there, man. So be safe out there, man. And hopefully there can be some type of resolution to everything out there here soon.
Yes, sir. He says it's been ashy around, but he's good. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
George T asks, is James Daniels coming back? I don't think so. You know, he had the Achilles tendon rupture. That's a hard thing to come back from. He is a guard, but he wasn't the most mobile of guards as it was. You know, I saw him during training camp a couple years back when Kenny Pickett was a rookie. And, you know, I just saw him with 2 knee braces on his ankles and a bunch of other things. It looked like he could barely walk. You know, I'm not gonna lie. He was just like,
jeez, dude.
Yeah. And I was like, man, that's a lot of stuff there. You know, now dealing with that. I mean, if he goes cheap, maybe. I mean, if nobody's picking him up, he becomes relatively inexpensive. He wasn't bad for the Steelers. I just don't know if he was in the right scheme and for the Steelers. Maybe even in the wrong position. I think he would have had much of a better career had he with the Steelers. That is, maybe if they would have put him at center instead of Kendrick Green all those years ago. What do you think? Do you think James Daniels is making a comeback?
I could see something where if he lingers around and they want a little just some extra competition there, or just to kind of fill out some depth between him and McCormick and whoever they may draft. He shouldn't be high on the priority list though right now.
And Jared Devil says probably sticking with McCormick, George Daniels, or McCormick, George Daniels contract is done. Yeah, I think. James Daniels is going. I think he's going to be a free agent as of this off season, so he'll be able to choose where he wants to go.
Yeah,
you know, I do think they're going to stick with McCormick. Sayamalu, you know, he didn't have the best year, and this is when Afton comes in saying I could see Sayamalu leaving before Daniels. He didn't have the best year. He's up there in age as well. He had a pec injury, if you remember, at the beginning of the season. So I don't know how long that lingered around. But he didn't have his best season as an interior guard this year. Maybe perhaps, you know, having a rookie center and Dan Moore on the other side of you impacts your play. You know, there's always that possibility. What do you think about the guards? Do you think next year the guards are going to be Sayamalu and McCormick? Do you think there's going to be another face there? What do you think about the guard position?
I don't think it would hurt to look at your options on the market. I think you're better off if you're going to more try to tackle something in the draft. I mean, you just drafted a center. You drafted McCormick last year, and you drafted Jones and Fontana, whatever, for over the last couple years. So I don't really necessarily see a need earlier on the draft to draft somebody. If you're going to try to bring a little bit more stability to your line, it doesn't hurt to look what the market looks like. If there's somebody there that's a little intriguing, I don't really know who's all on the list in terms of offensive guards on the free agency market this year. But if there's somebody there, maybe in terms of maybe an Isaac Sayamalu, if you want to cut some ties there, maybe go a little younger with somebody on the free agent market, that could always be an option. I'm open to that. Sayamalu hasn't moved me as much as he originally did when we first signed him. So that could be an option. I think it's fine to give Mason McCormick year 2 as a starter there. I think if you're going to maybe look at an option there to fill out that guard position, I think maybe it would make more sense to go a little younger over Sayamalu, cut some ties there. If you can save a little money, look what the market looks like. If somebody's there, maybe you go that way. I still like the potential of their offensive line, though. It struggled at times, but I still like what's there.
No, yeah, I agree. And Fautanu, he didn't play at all this year, so he's going to be another quote He's going to feel like another first-round pick this year since he didn't play at all this upcoming year since he didn't play at all this current past year. I think he's going to end up on the left side, man. I think Dan Moore is going to be gone. I think Broderick will be on the right side. I think I got more faith.
Dan Moore's got to go. Dan Moore's got to go.
Yeah, and it's crazy because about 6-7 weeks ago, everybody's talking about how good Dan Moore was doing.
Yeah, starting the season off, I think the first couple months, he was holding his own and looked like a guy that was. But again, the Dan Moore we all know and love came in the last handful of games, and we saw that, and it just enough's enough. The experiment's done. I'm sure there's going to be another team out there that's in need of a tackle that will give him a decent contract, because seeing him as a 4-year starter with the Steelers, taking away whatever they take away from him, somebody else can give him a contract. It's time to move on. It's time to move with the 2 guys you drafted.
I agree. Now, there was some talk that if Isaac Seumalo's injury, the pec that he had earlier this year, and this was before Fautaunu's knee, I think it was like a full dislocation of his kneecap or something like that. Before that happened, what was it? I think that they were going to consider moving him to the guard position for Isaac Seumalo if his injury was going to be season ending for Seumalo. I thought maybe there would have been the possibility that they keep Dan Moore and put Fautanu there at guard, but I think the tackle position it's much more important. It needs to be addressed. I don't know if I trust Broderick Jones on the left side as much as I haven't seen Fautanu, but from what I've heard and how he looked in training camp and things of that nature, he was looking sharp. He was looking like the best offensive lineman out there, and that includes Zach Frazier, and we all saw how good he was. So the bar's high for Fautanu. Where do you think he's going to – so you think he's going to be on the left side or the right or in the guard? Fautanu.
I could see them maybe try to keep him on the left side since Broderick Jones has been more right tackle the last couple of years. I'm okay moving Broderick to left because I feel like that's what they originally drafted him to be. To me, I don't – you got to get rid of Pat Meyer 100%. You have to kind of reorganize your offensive line coaching because it hasn't been there the last handful of years. Guys aren't getting developed. You weren't moving the right direction. Well, you know what? Now you drafted guys. Now you drafted a center. You drafted a guard. You drafted 2 tackles. And Broderick Jones' development hasn't quite been there. It's not all his fault. He's only, 22, 23 years old. He's still a really young player. So his career is not over at all. But they got to, first and foremost, they got to get their coaching right. Second of all, between those 2 guys, I'm not the most knowledgeable in terms of whoever plays better at whatever side, because we didn't get to see Troy this year at all. Broderick's been more right side. I'm completely okay. Whatever would end up, whatever seems stronger as we see this offseason go on, I'm good with rolling with whatever. But given that maybe Broderick Jones has been on right side, maybe they want to keep working with him on that end since he's been there the last couple years. Maybe you just see that he just sticks on the right side. It's always possible.
Yeah. It's just that both Fautanu and Broderick Jones were both left tackles in their collegiate career. Fautanu, I think, is because of his height being one of the reasons why they may we're planning on changing him to the right side. Broderick Jones just has too many inconsistencies, in my opinion. And if you have him on the left side, the blind side of the quarterback, that could lead to some issues. That's
what I mean. They might just keep him a right tackle and try to work through those things. But you got to get your coaching, dude. Seriously.
Yeah.
Ever since Mike Munchak left, which was 2015, 2016, they haven't been able to figure it out.
Yeah. Jaime says, I say draft another tackle and move Fautanu to left guard. Could you imagine 3 tackles in 3 consecutive years? I mean, they went throughout the entire Kevin Colbert regime as GM, which was like 20-something years, without drafting a tackle in the first round. And if they draft another one, that'd be 3 in a row. That'd be crazy. I don't think that's going to happen. Hey, what's going on? Here we go, show. Devin's in the house.
How's that lawsuit, Devin?
Wait, what?
And I'm sure maybe he'll explain it to you, or he made a video about it. So
Got you. What position? Just kind of fast forwarding to the draft. If it were happening today, what position do you think would be drafted first
that I
round?
would do, or I think they would do.
Either or
Wide
both.
receiver. I think
Wide
wide
receiver number one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's I think there's a few guys in the first round that have a good chance to be there. I like that option just because depending what you do with George Pickens, but we know how much that's been needed. And I think it's very valuable if you would draft one early on and spend some money on one in free agency. And whether you deal George Pickens or if you let him ride out his last year, you don't re-sign him.
Good deal. And I think wide receiver could be a high potential pick there. For me,
A lot of people like corner too.
I was going to say,
do that.
I'm thinking either corner or defensive tackle. Somebody up in the middle. Keanu Benton, he's flashed, but I think he's playing out of position. He's they put him up there as a nose tackle, and he's not a Casey Hampton type of nose tackle. And so I think he's more of the maybe another Cam Hayward who also isn't a nose tackle. They do better as ends in between the guard and in between the tackle. And I think that'd be a better place to see Keanu Benton. But I think that, with Cam getting older, I think you're going to end up keeping Loudermilk. I think he's a free agent. I think he ends up coming back. Larry Ogunjobi's probably going to be a cap casualty. They're going to cut him with the amount of money that they owe him.
Dude, I've never seen it with him, man. He when we first signed him, it was interesting, but to me, just didn't move me much last year and this past season. I mean, dude, what are we doing? He had 15 tackles and a sack and a half. I mean, just not enough, dude. Just not enough. I mean, he doesn't really get injured too much, but the production's just not there for me.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I see what Devin put in the chat. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's what I mean. That's why I asked him how that lawsuit was going.
That's funny. Well, I hope you're all right, man, with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniel and I could agree with that. I think it's something to take a look at for sure there.
Yeah, but either way, I think you're going to end up having to get a defensive lineman. Cornerback is another position I think you need to address. Slot corner isn't one you would address in the first round. Your first 4 rounds have to be, in my opinion, you have to get a corner, you got to get a defensive lineman, receiver, and running back are probably high on the list of things.
Yeah,
high on the list of things that you need to get.
Yeah.
The draft is going to be, from what I understand, is heavy in the running backs, and good quality running backs. You're probably gonna be able to get one in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And pair him up with Jaylen Warren, and I 100%. Think you'll have another.
Jaylen Warren needs to come back.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that those are going to be your top positions that you're going to look for. I don't think they're going to get a quarterback in the draft unless one falls to like the 5th round or 6th round.
Even at that point, that's what I mean. That's just the reality of the draft class. To me, the only person realistically that moves me would be Jalen Milroe. But again, he's not a guy that's going to be ready to start right away. He's still he's still a project to me. So
you don't like Ewers out of Texas?
No.
I think a lot of people don't like him because they want to see Manning.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where he's going to go, Quinn Ewers. He's not going to go in the 1st round. I could really maybe see somewhere in the 3rd round, possibly. So, listen, if they decide to take one in the middle of the round, I'm not opposed to it. It depends who's there. It depends who you like. I'm not going to – people are going to have their opinions about quarterbacks wherever they get drafted. You don't know how these guys are going to turn out at the end of the day. But when you look at the reality of it, they're not going to take one that's going to impact next season.
I do think they end up getting one in the middle round. I don't think this is ever going to be a starter. I think you're going to get somebody that's going to learn the offense and be your backup, a long-term backup.
So Landry Jones 2.0?
Yeah, exactly. Landry Jones 2.0.
Because he was what, 4th or 5th round guy?
3rd round.
3rd round.
He was a third round pick. Yeah. And maybe it'd be crazy to get yours this year, and then they get Manning next year. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, both the Texas guys on there. My God.
But their roles would be reversed, I think.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be opposed to him, yours per se, but I don't think they're gonna go. They're looking for somebody who's gonna be a starter for them. And yours probably goes in the first round just because of the it doesn't matter what talent around quarterbacks are in. They'll get drafted. They're usually overdrafted because of the necessity and the hype or whatever the case may be. But if one fell as a backup, you have him on your team. If he sparks against your defense in practice, maybe you consider something. But it's a low risk, low reward, or maybe high reward if he ends up turning out. He could be an excellent quarterback. We've seen other quarterbacks get drafted 4th, 5th round, 6th round, and turn into something. So I think they do end up getting a QB in the draft, but it ain't going to be anything special in my opinion. And I really hope it's not Shedeur Sanders. I don't want to deal with that whole Coach Prime drama. And
you won't have to worry, dude. He's going to go in the top 3.
You think he'll be top 3? I've heard a lot of people say that he ain't going to get. This may be another year where quarterbacks are late first.
No, Cam Ward's going to go number 1 because when you look at the Giants, you look at the Titans, you look at the Raiders, even the Browns, those are all quarterback needy teams. And Cam Ward and Sanders are the only 2 right now that are the ones that have any consideration to go high end. And those teams are definitely going to be taking 2 of them. And those 2 are going to be, I think Cam Ward goes 1, and you see Sanders probably go somewhere in the top 3. And that's it. It's not a good draft.
No, not for quarterbacks. I don't think so. I don't really know how.
Not to say these guys won't pan out. I'm not writing over anybody, but just in terms as a prospect, it's not something that you're gonna break an arm and a leg for.
Yeah, no, I agree. Which is like I said. I mean, I don't even know if next year's draft class is going to be any good or not. I just know that Archie Manning could come out. I mean, he may not come out. He may stay another year in college after that. But if he has a really, really excellent year or a Heisman year, it'd probably be in his best interest to go ahead and declare, because I think that his stock would be as high as it probably could or would be at that point if he ends up having one of those type of seasons. And if he doesn't, he's probably going to stay another year. So I can see, if he does a good job, that, he may go into the draft, in 2026, and the Steelers are hosting that draft. It'd be really cool if they got their franchise quarterback at that draft. But take a lot to get him, in my opinion. If he ends up playing and balling out the way he has been when he's had his opportunities to get into the game, he's going to be like top 1.
Yeah.
So you got to give up the house if you even if that's even plausible at that point. But yeah, so well, that's gonna do it for us. Nathan, tell everybody where they can find you, man. Thank you and for hanging on.
Yeah, no, it was good being back on here with you, man. You guys can find me at In Hindsight. That's where I have my own between doing our shows together, between Daniel and I on the Unofficial Steelers podcast, and between having my own content. You guys can find me there. I also have another podcast, Who Are These Guys? I do with Z, as you guys have seen him in the chat a handful of times. We put out a lot of different things. Recently, we put out stuff that's not really it's sports based, but it doesn't really have anything to do with kind of what's going on in the league. But we put out a handful of different things, sometimes gameplay, sometimes we talk about other stuff outside of sports. So you guys can find me there. You guys know where Daniel's at, State of the Steelers. Daniel, I don't know when we'll be back on. I think it's really going to come down to, because usually during the season, we usually do once a week. I know we kind of fell off there at the end a little bit with the holidays. You were busy. I was busy, things like that. Steelers were sucking. So not sure when Daniel and I will be back on in terms of our continual shows, because usually come the off season, it's usually sporadic just depending on signings or news, different things like that. So I'm sure there might be some different days, times between now and once free agency starts, where there's probably gonna be some news, firings, hirings, trades, maybe. Well, pretty active, I'd say, during the free agency period, just because of everything going on there in the draft. But things kind of get slow. So make sure you guys are following us so you guys can keep up with anything on our channels, notifications, because we appreciate all you guys being in here, each and every one of you. So we'll just see. We'll just have to kind of play it on what happens news wise up until free agency.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you as well for being on the show. Yeah, the Unofficial Steelers podcast may come up with something here or there, but you're going to always find me here on Saturday mornings with the State of the Steelers on the audio side only. And you'll find me on Monday afternoons or evenings, actually, with Shannon White. We do a live show on the Steel Curtain Network YouTube show or YouTube side. That airs out at approximately 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then for the audio guys, it usually comes out as soon as that podcast is over or that live showing is over. Appreciate everybody that tuned in. If you're listening to this on an Apple or any other place, please give us a 5-star rating, like, subscribe, do whatever you do. With that being said, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.